It is taking a long time to get to the front leaders here, and those guys, the two we have on our screen here, they're working really, strong the last number of kilometers, but still they have, that 15 seconds. But yeah, they're looking around here, but they can afford to knock it off a little bit more and just make it a four-man leading group, and then get working on it and see as the stage go on, see what the advantage. But as you see, Rob, as you say, we can see Little Trek already just controlling here and not allowing out this advantage to be, I think, anything major at all. They did see yesterday with the two guys, in the final, they put up a great battle, so they're thinking we cannot allow those guys 5 or 6 minutes, because then it becomes a difficult one, the effort you have to make to close them down.
One of the teams that's made a big effort in the last couple of days. Not too much reward. They got close yesterday, though, was Alpecin de Koning. Their sprinter is Caden Groves.
Caden, that was close yesterday, second. How have you looked at it afterwards, analysing it?
Yeah, I think everything's positive about yesterday. Of course, the win would have been nice, but yeah, Milan was simply too strong, and yeah, with a finish like this, it's perfectly suited to me, I think, with such high speed. So we look forward to today. Possibly it's more of a technical finish, so it could suit me better.
Can you try to describe it for us, the final today?
Well, I mean, the final, it's yeah, quite technical. I think we have to set up early. There's quite a few narrowings with yeah, narrow streets and a bridge also, and then a number of roundabouts where, yeah, depending on the barriers, it could play a big part in positioning. And yeah, I really see it like this.
You've been close yesterday, but you've been closer and closer. I guess the confidence must be high, even though you haven't won yet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm confident. I've got a strong team here. I expect my form to get better day by day. I haven't raced really a lot at all this season because I've been out, and yeah, I mean, we take positives. Hopefully today in the climbs also we can build some fatigue into the other sprinters.
Could you guys put some pressure on the last climb, 20 k's from the finish?
Yeah, I think...
And this is the situation at the front. Radio being sorted for Mattia Weiss. He's with Lewis Askey, who's in the blue, young British rider. Simon Keske, the very experienced German rider, right at the front of the group now. And alongside them, Manuele Tarozzi of VF Group Bardiani. Weiss has bought yet another lottery ticket here. But it'd be a surprise if the numbers would have come up, Sean, I think. Less than 2 minutes, 2 minutes. They're not messing around again, the sprint teams, are they?
No, unfortunately for the four leaders here, here. Front of the peloton, they're starting to get organised and set a pace, but these guys, they have to just keep on working at it now, and it's going to be a long day out in front here with the hope of going all the way. It's not looking good at all already at this point in the race, so that is a difficult one to keep your morale and keep on working on it. But again, that's what we see in the flat stages, early part of a 3-week tour. The teams, they just get up the road here, and you're always hoping that there will be some little problem back in the peloton that you can pull the advantage out and get into the final. But again, it doesn't look like it's going to be the day for the breakaway to survive and go on to contest for the stage win.
The riders left Genoa not so long ago, city of just over 500,000 people. Famous palazzo, food and coffee and wine down in the streets. It's May, the pink parade.
Yes, and the buildings, right in the water, spectacular. But you can see the road, the shots we've been having here. It's all the time turning into it, and that's what I mentioned the earlier part. They do not want this race to go on for 50, 70 kilometres and not allowing the breakaway to get away, because it would be hectic. All that pushing to be in the front. It's not a nice road to do that, but when it settles down 4 miles in front, and then you put the teams of the sprinters on the front and just make a strong pace, not allow the gap to grow out of any dangerous advantage, this is perfect situation for all the teams. The GC men as well, they'll be happy with that, because back in the peloton, you know, you sit there in 20 or 30 or 40 position, much easier to do when it's calmed down like this.
There's Roberto Reverbi in the window seat there, just having a chat with Emanuele Tarozzi. Bit of advice for the man from VF Group, Bardiani. Top 10 for them yesterday with Enrico Zanoncello. He's the rider who won the opening stage in Abruzzo, by the way. It's his first European victory last month. All the leaders now blue jersey for that race that was resurrected to replace the Tour of Sicily. It couldn't take place. These are those roads that you're talking about, Sean, up into the hills, the olive groves and the big old Mediterranean mansions. Looks the part. Tadej Pogacar, all in pink today.
Well, they might have as much as Adam and all if he holds it all the way.
Immersive cycling to reach your...
With Aski, Geske. And there's Weiss, Mattia Weiss, fourth man there. How many times have we seen him in Giro? Up the road. He's been coming here in a couple of different uniforms for the last few years. Well, he's got the old Alaphilippe impression going on with the goatee beard there as well. Riding for Polticometa now, formerly of Androni. But talking of Androni, all the very best to Gianni Savio. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that it was his birthday, I think during Liège perhaps. He's still at home convalescing after a couple of injuries whilst out running. I know he's following the Giro d'Italia day in, day out. And the four riders up the road are controlled. It looks, for the breakaway, to be a relatively relaxed atmosphere. They sort of know how much time they're going to get now. I guess it's about conserving energy to try and shock the peloton later on. At the front of the peloton, we saw a bit of a change as well, Sean. Alpecin Koenig committed today.
Yes, well, I think a lot of sprinters teams, you know, they believe, and the ones who have been up there in the sprint already in this race, well, you know, they are going to be thinking, well, today could be our day. And Caden Groves, you know, we did hear him there with the interview pre-race. He said that, you know, he's been out for a while, so he's getting better as this race go on. And you know, yesterday, you know, he was really good, and considering that sprint as well, it was a big, you know, power sprint. Today, he said, suits him a bit better maybe with the cornering, but it all depends on the team. If you have, you know, 2 or 3 riders, 4 riders that can stay with you to the very end and take you into that final 200 metres, well then he also has a really good chance of getting the stage win here today against men who are maybe a bit faster, more powerful than him. But it's all about positioning and getting the good look, being in the right position right to the very moment where you can kick off your sprint.
That's the peloton. Let's go to the motorbike. Here's Jens.
And here we are. We just waiting for the front group. You can see them coming past me right now. 4 riders together. They are on cruise control. They're riding a steady pace, not too fast. They know they have the permission of the peloton to go a long way today. So no reason to really go full gas now. The brake is clear, and they are on the most efficient mode on getting too far, or as far as they can. So
Ever Jens.
Voila. That's the mentality, that's the attitude.
That's, I guess, how you have to look at it, isn't it? Because if you know there's no point, you wouldn't be there in the first place.
Well, unfortunately, there's not enough of riders like Yenzi. You know, he was a man for the breakaways and just out front there and drive it on and just, you know, full-on racing all the time. He just loved that. And we see here, Arkea, of course, you know, they just pulled their man back. They decided this is only going to be a day where you kill a rider from the team, wait for other opportunities. But, you know, different sportives have different, you know, ideas about it, and it's good that we have a group out front, because if everybody had the same idea of, yeah, there's no point in going up the road here, well, it will be really a boring day, peloton riding along, and, you know, still this 159 kilometres to go. At least the breakaway out front, you never know, and there's always that little suspense. Will they be able to go a long ways into the finish? But unfortunately, 134, this is a very slim advantage that allowed them once again. And yesterday they allowed to go out to quite, I think it was around 5 minutes, so it gave a lot of hope to the guys who are out in front. But if those guys could be given that 5-minute advantage, they would be getting more confident as we get further down the road into this stage.
Lots of pink on the side of the road. We've just gone past the Gulf of Paradise, moving to the Gulf of Tigullio now. Big pink paradise for Tadej Pogačar. Third day in the Maglia Rosa for him. Third Slovenian as well to wear pink. Primož Roglič had 7 days there. Jan Polans had 2 days. It's been 5 years since the first Slovenian Maglia Rosa. Roglič taking the first one in Bologna when he won the time trial at San Luca. 12th day altogether for Slovenia in the Maglia Rosa. Pulls them level with the USA. Welcome to all of you American viewers on Max, by the way. Your last Maglia Rosa was pulled on by Taylor Phinney back in 2012. This is Pelayo Sanchez at the back. One rider was fined yesterday for what's always put down as bad conduct. Certainly often a bit of a rough translation of way about words to say it was, let's say, a comfort break in the wrong place in front of people. 200 Swiss francs go from the prize money kitty. Of course, the francs and the prize money is where all the fines come from, even though they're labelled to certain riders. So it's Janssens, Seri and Gebreselassie pulling at the front. Let's go and hear from one of the men, hoping to be pulling at the end. Dainese, the sprinter.
So how do you feel before this third sprint in this Giro?
No, the legs are getting there. Feeling day by day better. So yeah, yesterday was a bit unlucky in the descent. We're doing a good job, and Krieger got a bit squeezed, and we had to brake. So we were a bit too far, than me and Robin, to actually sprint for a good result. But yeah, today is a different day. It's a bit harder in the start, and yeah, we try to get a good result if it is a sprint at the end.
How will you organize in the final? Because it's a long turn in the last kilometer. How will you organize on the
Italian national team? I think they know each other very well, so they were thinking, be careful with Filippo. He's going to try and do something here. And we did hear the riders, mention that I think this morning or yesterday evening after the stage finish. But yeah, a lot of riders did not like that finish, that speed going down. We had 90 kilometers per hour, I think, from Max Scandry, and the run to the line, like, it was a super fast finish. And thank God everybody got through safe. There was no crashes, because when there's a crash occur at that speed, so many riders can go down, and injuries would have been a concern for all.
The applause for the riders in Rapallo is rapturous. This locality is actually famous for having been the site of 2 really significant peace treaties after World War I. Firstly between the Kingdom of Italy, as it still was then, and then the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. That signed in 1920. 2 years later, there was a big peace treaty signed between the Weimar Republic and the Soviet Union. And here, well, it seems as though the treaty's been signed between the breakaway and the peloton. As we heard from Jens, the brake's not really pushing on as it can, and the peloton's just keeping them in check. They've got nothing. Look, a measly 1 minute 30 today. They are not given any opportunity whatsoever. So it's a peace treaty, but the nation with the biggest power behind can end it any time they want. They can bring them back very, very easily here. And 153 kilometers still to go. Here comes Jimmy Janssens, Belgian rider, racing for Alpecin de Koning. Just behind him, the Eritrean, who is Emmanuel Gebreselassie. He will have been partying last night. course, not in the strictest sense of the word. They've been very happy. I'm sure there would have been a short celebration at dinner for Jonathan Milan and Lidl Trek. And, well, brief party the other night for Sudal Quickstep, and Peter said he's riding for them.
Well, the partying would be low-key for the teams.
Muted.
You know, you'd have a half a glass and, you know, they'd say a few words. The stage winner normally stands up in the dining room and, you know, thanks his team, the riders, the personnel, all of that. But it would be, when you say party, I think it's probably it's a bit too much of a strong word, party. I think, you know, it's just they kind of honour the stage win and, you know, the importance of it. But it would have been, you know, very much the normal dinner, then the glass at the end of it, and to bed very, very early, and thinking of today, as Lidl Trek will be, you know, thinking of another stage win and the days to come as well. Yeah, all the riders have got a job to do here.
It's going to be interesting watching this time gap here. It's down to 1:15. Just have to watch out for not getting too close to them and pulling it back here. Of course, going through these towns, everyone wants to stay safe, and this is probably why it's strung out like this at the minute. But even here, you can see they're nowhere near going at full whack.
No, and I think the breakaway is really just...
Stage 5 of the Giro d'Italia, starting in Genoa, and it's been the Ligurian coastline that's been the main protagonist so far in the opening almost 30 kilometres of this stage. 150 remain on the way to Lucca. We are going through some pretty places today, all the way from the start to the finish. But when aren't we on the Giro d'Italia? Just been through Portofino. Stunning picture postcard. This is the peloton on their way through. Just 1 minute 20 behind a four-man breakaway today. They're not taking any chances. They're not having to go hard either, because the break are playing the game too. We heard from our own breakaway expert, Jens Vogt, that they were really giving as little as they could, in economy mode, let's say. There's Medlier and Turns. Funny thing is, they're up against each other at this race, but they prepared for the Giro d'Italia together. They were rooming at their own altitude camp at the top in Tenerife a couple of weeks ago. They had their families down the hill. Maybe I'm being a bit strange with the words there, calling it a hill. It's a mighty mountain, isn't it? Mount Teide. Highest mountain in Spain, but families were down the bottom enjoying a holiday, doing a bit of training as well themselves. So they managed to meet up when they were training low every day with their families and young children, and sleeping up on high on Mount Teide, Turns and Medlier. But on Turns yesterday celebrating Medlier, having taken the win himself the day before. And it's all been about the sprinters for the last couple of days, albeit with late attacks and plenty going on throughout the stages. This is the breakaway with Mattia Bais, Simon Geschke, Lewis Askey and Manuele Tarozzi. Two Italians, a Briton and a German, passing through the parade of pink. And this is the image. This is exactly what Jens was talking about. Well, we talked about the sprinters. Let's talk about the general classification riders, shall we? Let's hear now from Kiana at the Brooks.
Kian, sur ce Giro. On est très heureux de vous retrouver.
How are you, Kian?
Très bien.
No, I'm doing very well at the moment.
Quand même déjà des jours de
There have been already
montagne,
days with mountains, but days where the race was nervous. Just a bit of everything. I'm happy with my position, and everything's going well.
C'est bien.
Hier, on vous a même vu aller chercher une petite seconde de
Well, we
bonification.
saw you take a bonus second yesterday, and you're seizing every opportunity.
S'il est là, il faut le prendre.
If there's one there, you've got to take it. I saw Canmerjan in front, and I was hoping we could catch him before the sprint line. So in the end, I sprinted for the bonus. And you never know, it might count.
On sait jamais.
Aujourd'hui, normalement, dernière journée
Well,
calme.
today should be a day. The calm before the Strade Bianche stage and then the time
la
trial.
suite va être demain va être
It's true that tomorrow we'll be nervous.
Donc, allez, d'abord, on
Gravel
doit
sections,
arriver
not the
sans
day
problème
that
aujourd'hui.
I like the
Et puis,
most, but we've got a good
demain,
team.
avec le gravel,
Some strong guys like Laporte,
c'est pas la
Raffini.
journée que j'aime le plus, mais on a une bonne équipe, quoi, avec des gars très costauds comme Christophe, comme a fait les
Then the
montagnes
mountains
vont revenir
will come back and we'll have to fight for them every
on se
day.
bat tous les jours pour ça.
Merci beaucoup, Kian. Merci.
Now keep your eyes on this. Tarozzi's up in front. These three are behind. It's a strange old start to this stage.
And Rob, don't ask me what do you think, because I don't know what's happening here.
That's good, because Dan Lloyd's here. Ask him what he thinks.
Don't ask me what I think, Rob. I don't know what's happening here.
I'm just checking Manuele Tarozzi's place of birth. I'm just wondering if he's from up the road here.
Well, if it's his place of birth, if it's his region, you know, he could stay in this group, just keep on working together and, yeah, roll along. But the breakaways really knocked it off here, and you could see back in the peloton, you know, it was grouping up in the front of the peloton because they had to knock it off so much. But yeah, maybe he is just being allowed up here. But we'll see very quickly if he's.
Well, I've just checked my notes in front of me, and he's from nowhere near here. He's from Faenza down in Romagna, so goodness knows what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just a long way away, yeah.
He needs to get a big advantage before he gets down there.
Is that now the other three teams, Dan, saying they've had enough and this isn't going anywhere?
I don't know, I mean, it looked like he had a word, didn't it, before he went up the road, but we've got a little while until we're going to get to the first King of the Mountains of the day, so it's not him going off in early search of the maximum 9 points there, so I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I do understand why they're not going flat out at the moment. It's been very evident to us, and therefore to them, from the outset, from the moment they went up the road, they weren't going to be allowed a huge time gap, and they were perhaps hoping that more riders would go up the road with them so that they had a group of 6+, maybe even up towards 10. But that was always going to be unlikely on a day that we knew and they knew would still be controlled for the most part by the sprinters. I think the opportunity on this stage lie a little bit further down the road. You know, we've got this climb which starts at 131 k's to go, and it's a long one, but it also finishes with 116 still remaining, so not too much going to happen there.
Now, Lewis Askey's on the radio here. There's a lot of looking around. I have a feeling that they're giving up the ghost here.
Yes, it looks very much the case here.
That's it.
They're knocking it off, and it's not surprising because, you know, the peloton just allowing that to 130. It's a very, very slim advantage, and with the climb coming up as well, you'd expect the peloton to allow them to go further ahead.
Well, we'll check that. The reason they were looking around was the man who was in front. He's obviously hidden away somewhere, and maybe he had something to do, Dan, and maybe that was it. Yes. Can I stop for a...
Has he done a Matthew van der Poel from Glasgow? He's found an accommodating local family.
Well, let's just hope it wasn't a Dumoulin. Well, Tarozzi's back then. That was a strange old thing, because we saw him go up the road. We didn't see them overtake him. And those guys were soft pedaling, they were looking around. Askey was obviously on the radio explaining what had happened, and thankfully the breakaway is going to stay there, but they've got to get careful because 25 seconds back is the peloton. Of course, the peloton don't want to catch them yet, and that's what's in their favour here.
No, they certainly don't want to catch them, and as they were saying, surprising the peloton is not to leave them get a bit of a bigger advantage, get onto the climb. And that prevents people from thinking, okay, on the climb, I can just go across there very, very quickly if it's only a minute or a minute and 30. So if you're allowed to go to 3 minutes, well then, you know, it's not maybe an invitation for somebody to try and do that on the climb. But again, it's going to be a one. Will the teams really push on, as we see yesterday on the climbs, but some of the bigger sprinters, the heavier riders and difficulty, all of that as well has to be, I think, wait and see what will happen there. But I think this man here, Bardiani, had to go for number 2, so the other riders, they just waited, and a bit of confusion.
Well,
I was surprised what was happening.
Without wishing to dwell on this too long,
please don't.
I think it probably wasn't number 2, because we had some info through from Jens Fox on the ground, who said, not sure if you can use this, but in the small tunnel they went in just now, and this was sent 5 minutes ago, all 4 riders from the breakaway used the chance to go for a natural break. Nobody stopped, but they all let some weight out, shall we say. So if they all did that there must have been some other weight to be let out for the other rider there.
Maybe smiling and laughing as he come through the group then. All sorted anyway, thankfully, and we can get going again. And provided 5 minutes of entertainment. I'll tell you what, the entertainment so far, Dan, I don't know if you've been watching the images. What a part of the world this coastline is.
Oh, incredible, yes. Oh. What was that last town that you said was one of the most visited tourist places?
Portofino.
Yeah, it looked amazing, didn't it?
The Ligurian coastline, of course, famous up around here for the Cinque Terre as well, and absolutely stunning.
Even the security guard here in the building that I'm at, I went to make myself a cup of tea before coming into the commentary box, and he's just next door. He said, where are they now? That looks absolutely stunning. So it does turn heads cycling, doesn't it? I mean, that's partly why the sport continues to be successful. It's not just for the sporting aspect, is it? So many people that...
And things like that, and we try to strike a balance because we know that there are people watching of all different levels, there's different appearances, there are different reasons for watching, and Sean and I, when you were on yesterday, we went into the canteen. We're at Eurosport headquarters commentating on this race, and the big screen was on in the canteen, and it was the cycling, and there were people eating their lunch and looking up and having a look round, and there are so many different reasons for tuning in and watching.
Well, that is a great thing about the big tours, the countryside, and the people, you know, watch the race, but also a lot watch it because of the countryside, and that's why towns have to pay for the Grand Depart, they have to pay for stage starts, stage finishes, all of that, because, you know, you cannot just pay for this exposure.
Golf now. Plenty of rain in here in winter, that's why it's so green around here as well. In terms of the gap, that's now at 31 seconds. Old stately homes and beautifully preserved. Dan, back to the racing. Alpecin-de-Koning contributing from the start today, and that's something new, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I was looking at the way they were riding up that unclassified climb just a few moments ago, and they would have known that the breakaway wasn't far in front. Even if they didn't have time gaps, the riders actually on the front would have seen, if not the riders themselves, they would have seen the following cars and motor vehicles, etc. there. But they didn't knock the pace off. It feels like they're already starting with a premeditated plan of, let's make the climbs hard rather than riding them at a steady tempo to try and put the hurt on the likes of a Tim Merlier, perhaps. You know, we saw how close Caden Groves got to the win yesterday, and he's got a much better chance if everyone's got fatigue in the legs. So even if they don't try to split the peloton necessarily, just to have that accumulated fatigue for the, you know, the more pure sprinters, I guess, in this field. On the next climb that's coming up, on the 4th category climb, which peaks with just over 20 k's to go, it looks to me like that is a part of their game plan today.
Going through Chiavari, 3rd biggest town in the region. These guys getting to work much more severely now. This is the most active we've seen them since the start. They want to build an advantage again, because what Dan was just suggesting as well, Sean, if Alpecin-de-Koning want to make things hard, they're going to have to use a part of this first climb on. They don't necessarily want to catch the break, but they just want to make sure that it's not easy for everybody.
Well, Alpecin-de-Koning, they want to make it complicated. Going into this climb, not having the advantage of maybe 2.5 minutes where nobody is thinking of trying to go across the breakaway. If there was a team there that maybe wanted to get in the earlier part, although it wasn't very difficult at the start this morning, but, you know, I think the team of Merlia would want it maybe to grow out a bit more, but they're not being allowed by other sprint teams, and all that tactic is going on. And Albus in the Koenig, you know, by keeping it very, very tight here, well then on this climb it could be a bit of a battle, and that's what they want. They want it to be aggressive on the climbs, to, you know, maybe put the fatigue into the men who are probably a bit faster at this moment than Caden Groves. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. They're working, you know, strong at it now, but still only did 43 seconds back to the peloton. You know, it's nothing, because when you get onto the climb, 2 kilometres, you know, is just an up of pace. They'd have this gap closed down very quickly.
The other thing they've got to be careful of is if they do keep the gap close, even if it's with the intention of hurting the legs of the more pure sprinters. It's gone up to 43 seconds now, but you can imagine that if it was only 30 seconds, the half-minute mark, there's lots of riders in this peloton that would look at this next climb and think, do you know what? I might give it a nudge here, get across the day's breakaway, and with some extra strength and numbers up there, maybe we stand a chance, or a better chance, in towards the finish in Lucca. So, you know, that's the one thing they've always got to be careful of. The closer the break is, the more riders in the peloton think, I could get across to that.
We're on the train with a never-ending trophy. Sponsors train Trenitalia, one of an amazing amount. You know, there are 84 different sponsors of the Giro d'Italia. 84. They've got official partners for all sorts, and I think I've got the list somewhere, but I'm going to save it until we get to the really boring sprint stage, the one on the East Coast where it's pan flat, because you would not believe the sort of stuff they've got partners for.
Sponsor number 78.
No, we won't go through it like that, don't worry.
We'll talk about it on the rest day.
Yeah, we'll have a chat then, shall we? It's Alpecin de Koenig at the front here. Just while you viewers on the TV were away watching the ads, different kinds of sponsors, we had a slowdown from the peloton, presumably because they got too close to the breakaway. And we had a strange little attack from Harrison Wood of Cofidis. But he's decided, or he's maybe been told, to pull up the foot, to stop attacking. And the other thing as well there, just alongside the train, Ederson's slowing for a minute. Maybe just pleasing the sponsors for a photograph there. They're not in a rush.
Feel a bit sorry for the crowd on the other side of the train that have waited there to watch the riders come through, only for their views to be blocked by the train.
So Grab going to a minute again, and we're approaching our first climb of the day, which is the Passo del Bracco. And interesting to see exactly what Alpecin de Koenig do. What they have done is take sole responsibility at the minute for the chase, because Lidl Trek have backed off, Soudal Quickstep have backed off. We've had a first hour at 40.8 kilometers per hour. Jimmy Johnson's the only man doing the riding, and well, the minute doesn't need any more, does it? And there's plenty more cycling on your screens as well. It might be a split screen day today. The Tour of Hungary begins, and we are on our way to Lucca here. Ben O'Connor's having his lunch, and if you'd like to have your lunch watching both races, you need to be on Discovery Plus. Mark Cavendish racing over in Hungary, as, by the way, is Peter Sagan, who's back on the road. On the road is Lilian Calmerjan. And Dan, when you were talking about riders getting across, he was the first man that came into my head. But for the minute, he's having a chat with his mate Julien Alaphilippe.
I mean, I'd imagine he's keeping his eye on the gap, or maybe his ear from his team radio behind, because you would have thought that if those 9 points up for grabs on this climb were achievable without a huge amount of effort, let's say with minimum effort, why not go for them? You know, it's exactly what he's done the last couple of stages, isn't it? 2 days ago, we had no breakaway. He went on the attack with Davide Ballerini, quite close to the only classified climb that day, took the maximum points. Yesterday, he did go with the the initial breakaway, so he was a little longer out front doing the work to get to the only classified climb where he took the maximum points. There's a minute at this point, so it would be quite a big effort, you'd have thought, even over the 15-kilometre climb to get across for the 9 points. But they would take him a fair bit closer to the lead of Tadej Pogačar. This feels a bit unfair, doesn't it, that Pogačar's got his 51 points and 50 of them have come from just one climb, whereas Kalmajan's been out there day in, day out pretty much, picking up points all along the way.
I was going to ask you about that, because Sean and I had a conversation at dinner last night about that, and we were wondering why they'd decided to weight the finales for, you know, the points towards those big finish climbs, because surely that's going to favour the GC riders, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they seem to have done a few things to favour Pogačar, though, don't they? I mean, the initial route coming out didn't have the Santi Vito climb on that opening day, did it? They then put 2 of them in to try and give him a... Well, I'm speculating, of course, but it felt like, you know, that's a climb that really suited Pogačar. Not that there's many that don't, of course. In the same respect, though, it is going to suit Pogačar more that the climbs are weighted if they're the finishing climb, like they did on Europa the other day. So he picked up the 50 points there. And if we look down the classification, Kalmajan is on 32, that's 19 behind Pogačar. There's 9 on offer here, so you'd only be 10 behind him then. But like I said, they're so easily erased, aren't they, with the weighted average towards the finishing climbs. He could eventually get himself in front and back into the blue jersey as leader of the KOM competition, only to find that in one fell swoop, Pogačar's doubled his points again.
Well, we're getting towards the start of the next classified climb. 9 points, as you say, on offer for that. A few roundabouts on the way in, and Pogačar's starting to appear at the front, not because he's going for the King of the Mountains, but because that's about to start, and everybody wants to stay safe here.
Well, as Dan mentioned, you know, the change of parcours there at a late moment. The points on the final mountain, it's, I suppose, value for money, we can call it.
I don't know what you're getting at.
Well, I think the big riders, you know, to try and have them in the jersey is so much more important, which is not fair, really. You know, when you look at Kalmajan, the work he's put in to get the amount of points he's got, and Pogačar gets that just, you know, for what he done in the end of a stage. I think it's a little bit unfair, but we all know why he's here.
Fabio, first and foremost, can you tell us about the finish yesterday?
Yeah, hectic. Full gas up Capo Mele and then full on the downhill. I was in okay position until yeah, the narrowing. I lost a bit of momentum, and then yeah, I lost the chance to go for a result. I have to say I also felt the legs already a bit from the stage before and the final climb. So yeah, yesterday was not for me.
And today it looks like the easiest of the 3 sprint stages we've had in a row. You're laughing. Is it or not?
Yeah, if you put those 3 in a row, yes, but it'll still be a tough stage, I think, with a few climbs. The last one is a bit longer from the finish, so yeah, probably a bit better recovered before we get to sprinting in Lucca, but yeah, it will be tough, and I hope to be there.
You tell us about the most crucial point. I know you sprint teams, you're looking through the last kilometers. Where is the part where you have to be there, you have to have Tobias in front of you?
I think that starts 3K from the finish, when we really enter the city center and the small cobbles. And then, of course, yeah, last 400 or 500 meters, last roundabout, where it's probably again a narrowing or a slight corner. So those are the 2 points that we really will be focusing on today.
Thank you, Fabio.
Fabio Jakobsen giving us his take on yesterday and what might happen tomorrow. As we get towards the Cinque Terre and Sestri Levante, there's the Baia del Silenzio, the Bay of Silence, known for its marine fauna, bit of a marine reserve down there. Told you it was quiet here.
Adam's been banned from this bay.
Not that I can talk. Here we go. Up there we go. It's time for the first climb of the day, the Passo del Bracco. 1 minute 20 of a gap for Gesche, Aschi, Bais and Tarozzi. Mattia Bais leading them up the front. Nervous look around there from Luis Aschi as you see the motorbikes pass by, but they've got 1 minute and 20. It's a 15-kilometre climb, this, but the average gradient at 3.9%. It's one of those climbs down where the average gradient really isn't really anything important to look at about, because it's a big rest for a few kilometres in the middle and the maximum gradient at 8%, but they're going uphill for the majority of the next 15 k's.
Yeah, they can be tough, you know, depending on the pace being set by the main peloton behind. Not expecting, of course, them to really rattle up this climb at supersonic speeds, but you know, were this climb to come with 20 k's to go, the sorts of speeds set by the Lidl Treks and Alps and de Koenigs of this world would really put a lot of people in difficulty. Now, I used to really struggle on the lower gradient climbs where, contrary to what Aschi is showing here, it's less efficient to get out of the saddle. You know, it's for the slightly bigger rider with a lot of power in the seat, can really make a big difference on a climb such as this. But like I said, it is long, you know, 15 kilometres. They'll only get to 610 metres at the top of the Passo del Bracco, but it is 15 kilometres long. So I was just looking actually at the King of the Mountains up here. Set on the 1st of September 2022, and the top 20 riders all came from that same day. I think it was an under-23 race, because I don't recognise a huge number of the names there. But the leader took 33 minutes. Wow. So even during an event of some sort, it's over half an hour of a climb. And I'd imagine they'd go up at a similar speed here, based on where it is in today's stage. But again, already we're seeing Alps and de Koenig going a little bit faster on the front than they had been on the lead into it.
And I think the rest of the peloton are reading those tactics, aren't they? Because you could just see that Milan has moved up with Lidl Trek, and he's got 4 riders in front of him. Even Pogacar, just in case. Of course, if you're a general classification rider, you want to be well placed. He's moved up onto the wheel there of Alpecin de Koenig. And there's an issue for Lawrence Piffy down the bottom. Whatever the issue was, it seems he sorted himself. Oh. Dropped his chain.
I think the chain got caught, and the way that the crank suddenly span backwards there, I think means that there was a bit of a cross-chaining or something where the rear derailleur and the bottom jockey wheel got pulled through towards the front chain rings, and when he took his feet out of the pedals, that sprang back and pulled the pedals backwards. Might be wrong on that, but something along those lines. But not ideal at the bottom of a 15-kilometre climb. We know how good he is at pretty much everything within the sport, though. We've seen that firsthand just this year, really, haven't we? From the Tour Down Under, Ken Levin's Great Ocean Road Race, through the Classics, etc. He's not bad at going uphill, and he's pretty fast in a sprint as well, particularly if that's going uphill. So he shouldn't have too much trouble. Keep your eye on the time gap, though. It's already come down 12 seconds in the last just few hundred metres. It really does, as I said before, feel like Alpecin de Koenig just want to make the uphill parts hard, even if that means there's a chance of catching the breakaway.
Just got a glimpse there of Sebas Molano. One of Jens's many informative messages he sent was a quick chat with the UAE coaching staff, and they said that Molano is free to sprint today. Might not get much help. As you see, Pog in full pink. Now that Adam Bly's walked into the box, I'll reiterate it and say that, well, Pog's in full pink today. He's got as many outfits maybe as Adam and Orla, so we've had the different coloured shorts.
I doubt it.
Well, Sean was saying you might have to have a long spell in the pink jersey to catch up with those two.
I know the UAE truck is big. It's not that big.
So, Sean, 58 seconds, it's gone down. UAE Emirates on the wheel of Alpecin de Koenig, and it's strung out in one long line. Of course, we're a long, long way for the finish, but as Dan was just explaining, it looks as though the tactic is clear. They want to do some damage to the other sprinters' legs here.
Yes, well, it looks like that for quite a while. We could see there, you know, before the climb, a number of kilometres they were pushing on.
It is doing damage. Sorry, Sean, but there goes Jakobsen.
Yes, well, we see Jakobsen yesterday in difficulty, you know, very early in the climb as well, and the form not good with Fabio Jakobsen in the early part of this Giro. And it'll be interesting to see now how much they can really put the men they need to put in difficulty. That is the question, because I don't think Jakobsen is a concern for them.
And Lawrence Pithy, with this increase in pace, is still having to make that bit more of an effort still to get back on. No big help from his team, or there is one rider there dropping back to help. That's Cyril Barth. Remember, they've got a rider in the breakaway. In fact, no, it's number 85, who is Lorenzo Germani. And for Fabio Jakobsen, he's got both Julius von den Berg with him behind and Hessel Lemreese in front. Reminder that they're minus Bram Velten, so Balde, Lund and Hamilton alongside Vermaak, the riders in the peloton. And all this damage is being done by one man here, and this is Jimmy Johnson's. Good ride, another 10 seconds since Daniel Lloyd pointed out the difference has gone from the gap at the front. Well, if they carry on like this, there'll be no breakaway at the top.
Well, that's what they want. They want to, get probably back together over the top of the climb, then get down the descent, and there will be teams who want to try and form another breakaway, and it will be a perfect situation for Albus in the Koning if that can work out. And we can see here, slowly it's putting the pressure on. And if you do not get rid of the big sprinters, you're going to test their legs a bit, and that's what it's all about. That just a little bit, put them under pressure and tire them out for later in the sprint. And we know Groves, he climbs, he can get all this stuff very, very well. And yeah, they'll be not popular, I think, with a lot of the teams here, the way they're riding at this point, with still that 128 kilometres to go.
Well, behind, the next victim looked to be Max Walscheid. He's just drifting off the back there in the Jaco Alula jersey. Passo del Bracco, and climbing it for the 54th time in the history of the Giro d'Italia. You're just switching on your tellies. Lawrence Pithy had a mechanical at the bottom. We've got 4 riders in today's breakaway. They've got 50 seconds. They had about 1 minute and 20 as they started this climb, and we're only 3 Ks in. It's 49 seconds now with Alpecin de Koning chasing, but their main objective here is to hurt the other riders. It's a long, long way from the finish, but this is the hardest climb of the day, and they're trying to use it to their advantage. They think that Caden Groves has a chance. If going out of Sestri Levante here, they can hurt the other riders with them. And Pithy's really, really having a fight just for the back of the peloton after coming back from a mechanical. Jimmy Johnson's at the front. Nicola Conci in there waiting to try and do some damage as well. Here in the breakaway, it's Mattia Bais, Simon Gescu, who's the rider in red and white for Cofidis. He's the veteran of this group. Tour de France stage winner with Aschi and Tarozzi. Tarozzi, the 25-year-old, part of that really special breakaway at the beginning of the season. Remember in the Tour of Valencia, day 1, finished second to teammate Tonelli as they crossed the line together on the opening day. And he had to wait for his mate, remember? Because there was that little moment in the roundabout, wasn't there, where they went the wrong way. Just as they were on into the stage finish. UEFA Group Bardiani having a leader's jersey at the start of the year. I'm worried for this breakaway now. 41 seconds. I won't mention it, but remember, I won't mention the reason why, because Dan Lloyd's done that enough today. Remember, Tarozzi had to stop at one point. Here they are. They're on their way up to the little rest. A little way up the climb. And then it starts again. Maximum gradient, 8% still to come. And these 4, Sean, is there anything they can do? I mean, is there any point for these guys to go into the red to really, really try and hold on to the advantage?
No, I think they just have to keep on, working at it at a good rate here and see what will happen as they go further up the climb over the summit. But 39 seconds is not looking good, because you can see Alpecin are still tapping that strong pace out here, and they are going to be disappointed. If they were not disappointed already, they're going to be more disappointed now. They can see the situation back in the main peloton. And this is it will be really interesting as we get to the summer of this one, what the situation will be, and as we get down the descent and then get into, you know, that long valley section, that long flat roads again. It's a complicated one for a lot of riders, and the riders who are losing, as you see Jakobsen there, you know, losing already in the earlier part. This is going to really make it difficult for him to get back in as well. They'll be concerned about it, because if the battle starts on out front, well then to get back into the main peloton, and my God, if they have to ride alone out the back, it will be a kill of a day for them. And yeah, it's a one where the tactic of Alpecin, it's certainly a one they had it, you know, set out before the start of this day.
Hermons now to the front, and Alpecin, it's a team effort from them. Sensational, this. There's never a boring day at the Giro d'Italia, and we were sitting here thinking that we might have been set in for that first sort of normal sprint day where things calm down for a little while and then get very active towards the end. Not a chance. I have to put my hand up and say I was in the camp where I was doubting the route at the start of the year. I think I said it. I'm lacking a couple of monument sort of finishes, things like that, you know, historical finishes and big mountains. But fair play, we cannot call the organisers for what's turned up, because the racers are racing. 49 Ks here up the hill. They're flying. And it's not just you here noticing this. Just behind you see Pogacar move to the front because they knew what was coming, Sean. Ineos Grenadiers as well. They've been brilliantly positioned, haven't they, throughout this Giro d'Italia so far. All the technical sections, they've kept their riders out of trouble. They're doing the same again.
Yes, well, you have to be, as a GC team, with your lead, you have to keep in a good position here. On the climb, then get onto the descent as well, because you know what's going to happen on the descent. You know, they're going to, you know, keep on the pressure, and when you get off that, then, you know, the race, depending on the situation out front, where a break will be. So safest place, the simplest thing to do is just sit in the top 15-20 riders here with your leader and a number of teammates. And yeah, you can see the pace. You know, this is going at a super fast pace. The gradient is not, you know, a steep one at all here, but as you know, anybody rides a bike, when you can ride 2 or 3 kilometers an hour slower on a climb, well then it becomes an easy one. But the moment, you know, you start driving it on a lower gradient, it makes a lot of riders suffer and makes them uncomfortable.
4 riders still at the front, 32 seconds. It's going to go uphill again. A little easier section. Dan has allowed Walscheid and Pitti to get back in after they've been struggling. Jacobs is still off the back. Of course, we noticed and the Bram Velten yesterday had to go home because of sickness. We know that Romain Bardet had been sick. Jacobs has sounded okay. You just wonder if he's been suffering with the same thing, or is it maybe that he's just not got going yet at DSM?
Well, he's not got going yet at DSM, and even last year at Soudal Quickstep, he wasn't the man that he was 1 year earlier. I think with Jakobsen, we have to remember the history and what he went through after that Tour of Poland crash. I mean, I was astounded, A, that he got back on a bike, B, that he pinned a number back on and raced again, and C, that he started racing and winning at the very highest level of the sport. But he got himself back to the point where if he was on the start list, you'd think he's the man to beat if this comes down to a sprint. In the Tour de France 2 years ago, that was certainly the case. Last year, less so, and this year, so far, when he's been on the start list, after what we've seen, you're not looking at him and highlighting him in quite the same way as you were 12 months ago. I'm not sure quite why that is, but that's why I mentioned his crash. You know, it's such an astounding physical but also mental effort to get back to that kind of level that I then wonder whether something else is going on in his head now. You know, I wouldn't begrudge him second-guessing himself or thinking, do I want to take these sorts of risks again in my life? But yeah, there's something clearly not right with Fabio Jakobsen. He's obviously not a climber, but the rest of the sprinters we think are still there. He's the one that keeps suffering every single day, so he's certainly not the man we're used to seeing on a bike over the last couple of years. You talked about Max Walscheid there, Jaco Alula. He is still hanging on the back. He would have loved that brief bit of respite in the midway point of this climb. But I think, unfortunately for him, with the way that Jimmy Janssens and Quinten Hermans are going on the front, as soon as it starts ramping back up again, they're really going to feel it, because this peloton is incredibly strung out now.
The man they're supporting, by the way, sits a little further back towards the front, so there's no danger of them dropping their own sprinter. Caden Groves is there in the train. We're halfway up the lightning fast ascent to the Passo del Bracco. Dan was looking at the KOMs on Strava. I think a few of those might be about to disappear today. 32 seconds for the 4 men in the breakaway, and you just saw, whilst Dan was giving me that last answer there about Fabio Jakobsen, Sean the car went ahead. They know that they're not too far behind now.
Yes, well, Jakobsen is it's not the normal that he's, you know, in difficulty so early in the climb. No. As Dan was saying, you know, we see last year he started to struggle a bit, but he was going okay in the Tour of France. Then he had that very heavy fall in the race, and that really knocked him out. And yeah, this year, you know, he's not really getting into the winning of races earlier on, but I didn't take too much from that. I thought it was going to be a bit slower to get back in, new team and all that, get to know the lead out train, but he's certainly, you know, not where he should be in this race, and that's the question. Has he been suffering also, you know, from sickness? And you know, if that is the case, well, then we can understand why he's in difficulty so early. Yesterday, immediately again today in the first kilometres. It's not the normal Jakobsen we're seeing here, but you know, this team, Jimmy Jansen's, they're really, you know, pushing on. You can see the way the peloton is lined out there. They are really giving it a lot of gas here, as they say.
Well, oh dear. That's Stefan Oldani. Is this the medical car? It is. By the way, Genoa has got good memories for him. We started in Genoa today. That's where he won his Giro stage. Hot day from a breakaway. Oldani himself obviously struggling with something. His former teammates are putting him in pain.
I wonder if his legs were struggling.
You old cynic. This is Pogacar. He won't be struggling. 32 seconds. Time gap sort of stabilised a little bit now, but we're going on to the second harder bit of it. And here's the stat I was telling you about a little earlier on. Third Slovenian to wear the Maglia Rosa, Pogacar. Roglic 7 days, Polans 2. 3 days now for this man. That's 12 days in pink, so as many as the USA. It's a long time since we had an American leader of the Giro. Taylor Phinney in 2012, the last man from the US wearing the Maglia Rosa. Let's see if we can see the distance on the road. Not too far, is it? There they are. Oi, oi, oi. Still 6.5 Ks to go to the top. And Alpecin de Koning stringing it out at the front. Now, is that a sting or something, you wonder? Some sort of issue. Magic spray on the arm.
Another bit.
They're the words of Sean Kelly, by the way, if anybody's listening from Cofidis. Let's go to Jens. Thank you. Yes, Jens will keep an eye on Fabio Jakobsen for us, but we saw the two Heersen Leemreizer was there, as well as Julius von den Berg. This is Stefan Oldani. Whatever was wrong seems to be sorted. He's at the back of the bunch. Gap at 23 seconds. They're going to get caught here.
I think they are going to get caught, but you know, looking at this, when you look at the route book here in stage 5, you see Passo del Bracco. You see where a situation is, you know, 115 kilometres out. There's nothing going to happen here. And I was looking through the earlier days, and you look at, you know, the final climb, the Monte Magno, you know, 4 category climb. There you could expect something to happen. Team blitz it up and try and put the sprinters in difficulty. But my God, you know, 115 kilometres out, and here we see, you know, the team of Alpecin de Koning just driving it on. And there's a lot of riders saying, my God, what's happening here at this point? And I'm sure some of the older riders as well, you know, would not be used to this, but this is the new generation of bike racing. And bang, they just take it up and drive it on and see what will happen. And yeah, fair play to them. It's making the race really interesting.
Great to watch on the telly, isn't it? And in a nice, calm, warm, cool, comfy commentary box. 19 seconds, that's that. Did you see the expression, Dan, on Tarozzi's face there?
Well, they're all going for it, aren't they? I mean, they're well aware, obviously, that the peloton now are breathing down their neck. You know, at the start of this climb, it was 1 minute and 16 seconds. So between Jimmy Janssens and Quinten Hermans, they've taken a full minute off the advantage of the breakaway, who haven't been hanging around themselves. So it's with clear intent. I mean, normally the reason we say a team wouldn't want to do this is because it ignites fresh attacks. You know, there's going to be someone that takes advantage of it if they do bring these 4 riders back into the main peloton here. Other teams and other riders will think, yeah, well, I'll give it a nudge and go up the road myself, which we normally think is going to make the chase more difficult. Fresher legs, a potentially bigger group, etc., etc. So it will be very interesting to see the way this pans out, because it does look likely that they are going to catch the break before the top of this climb. We talked about Lilian Kalmajan, didn't we? And he will go for the points if they are easily...
He's moving up now, Dan. You see that?
Yeah, there's the blue jersey going through shot on the right-hand side just now. Yeah, 9 points on offer. I mean, it looked unlikely he was going to be able to go for them half an hour ago, but as things have progressed, it's looking pretty likely at this point, isn't it?
15 minutes is a long time in bike racing. Things have completely changed here. Now Caleb Ewan towards the back of this group. Tobias Bayer, one of the key riders for Alpha Sinderkonig, hit the lead out. He's on the radio now at the back.
Wait for me.
Do you think that's the cry?
Well, I don't know what the call is, but this is certainly, you know, putting a lot of riders in difficulty. But we could see Jonathan Milan there. You could see he was walking, the shoulders were bobbing a bit. He have at least 5 or 6 riders, some little trek around him, but he's very much at the fore of the peloton there in, you know, 30th or 40th position, so he's looking good. But still, you know, 4.5 kilometres, these big sprinter guys, they can't hang on for so long, and then after a number of kilometres with this infernal pace, they can also start to suffer very quickly.
Hepburn and Ewan towards the back. Caleb Ewan, by the way, had words, didn't he, after the stage yesterday towards his team. That's something that we will explore as we get closer to the finish. Alpha Sinderkonig with 120 kilometres to go, absolutely blitzing it up the Passo del Bracco. 13 seconds for the 4-man breakaway. In all fairness, they've never been given a prayer since the start, have they? But now they're being actively chased down. It's Mattia Bais, Lewis Askey, Manuele Tarozzi, and at the back there in the red and white, it's Geske, Simon Geske from Germany. And it's Adam Blythe joining us in the commentary box. Adam, what a day so far. Ciao.
I have never seen a climb being ridden as fast. I can go barely downhill this speed, never mind uphill. They are riding rapid up here, like seriously quick. And I think, just as you mentioned...
Here we go, Malia. Damaging, damaging, damaging. We've seen Czerny struggling, now it's Medlir. He's in the Ewan territory here, and there's still 4Ks to the top.
Wow. This is the difficulty, I think, as well. You know, these last parts are going to be the hardest parts, and if they fully explode, which on a climb like this, when you get to 3.9 Ks to go, you're like, I can make it, just keep going deeper. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Alpecin after the climb.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of flat roads down into Lucca near the finish. So it will be interesting. Little kicker at the end, but they are definitely putting the hurt on right now. Gaviria as well.
Fernando Gaviria, and I tell you, he's trained more hours in Sierra Nevada than ever before. But all of those mountain climbs have put him there. The elastic snapping here. They've got to be careful. This is the moment. And at the front, Sean, Alpecin will be getting word now, because a couple of minutes have passed. They'll be hearing it on the radio. They'll be seeing it on the telly in the car. What do? Do they put the gas on even further?
Well, it will give them confidence, because, you know, they've set out with this tactic to put the sprinters in difficulty, and they'll be made aware of that ex-sprinter is in difficulty at the rear, starting to lose contact. But they just have to keep on just, you know, pushing on. And the problem is, as Adam said, or Jan said, after the climb, when we get on, who's going to ride? They'll be hoping that there'll be a lot of action attacking out of the front end of the peloton, because if they have to do it on their own, 115 kilometres on the top here. There's a long way to Luca from this bottom of the climb when they get down to the valley.
Now, Alaphilippe's in sort of no man's land out at the front. He's obviously been told, I think, to try and do what he can. There are two other riders with Merlier. They are Bert van Leerberger and Peter Seri. This at the back is Fernando Gaviria and Giovanni Lonardi, a top 10 finisher already in this race for Polti Cometa, is the other sprinter. A car goes past them. That's a lot of open road before. They're not just struggling off the back, they've been dropped now.
Well, they've been dropped, but again, you know, 2.8 kilometres, just keep on working on it. Keep your sprinter there and keep a number of riders with him and try and get back on the descent. So for Merlier, it's not looking too bad with Gaviria there, you know, and the numbers as well. The team are really rallying around him and keeping a lot of riders with him.
I was going to say, after this part now, you can see how this peloton's starting to speed up again as well. These last, well, what are they on, 2.5k? The last part of this climb, it does ramp up again, but this part now for another 1.5 kilometres, 1.7 k's, it's relatively flat. So for Merlier, it's probably quite lucky for him, but at the same time, when you haven't got the slipstream and you haven't got the pull of that peloton along, it's one of the hardest bits to just get on top of the pedals when all your legs want to do is stop pedaling, try and recover. So this part now, it will be nicer for him, and it's good that he's got teammates with him, but it's still a difficult part. I'm sure that time gap will extend probably more now than it did when it was on the steeper section of the climb.
It's Hermans Plankert and Groves. One more rider just returned to the front there for Alpecin-de-Koning. Looking at the back here is Andrea Pietrobon, maybe wondering if he can see if Lonardi's there just in front of him. 1:04, desperately trying to hold the wheel. Another sprinter, Ugo Hofstetter, Frenchman, racing for Israel Premier Tech, probably on lead-out duty today for Ethan Vernon. Wow. 27 seconds, so the break has managed to get going again.
That break is flying. I mean, chapeau to them up this climb to hold on to this gap all the way up here with the team riding not full gas, but up there to stay away still. They're not hanging about that breakaway.
Adam and I to have a breather, because if we don't have a breather, that means there's plenty of action going on in the race. Rob Hatch and Sean Kelly will, of course, be back with us for the finale. If you've been away on a commercial break, you rejoin us as our early breakaway of 4 riders is just about to be caught by the Alpecin-de-Koning-led main peloton. Still a number of sprinters off the back. Fabio Jakobsen a few minutes down at this point. Somewhat better off, the likes of Tim Merlier and Caleb Ewan, both suffering on the climb, both off the back, but should get back on at some point. I was speculating during the break with Adam Blythe alongside me that they might get on. Oh, wow. Well, so I was right in the end. I was about to say, I was speculating that they could get back on before the end of the descent. I was about to say, I think that's wrong with the speed that they're going at the front. But here they are. So Tim Merlier, with most of his teammates alongside him, along with Caleb Ewan, number 153 there for Jacob Alula, second from the back of this group, have just about made it onto the coattails of this main peloton. What would you envisage happening from here on in, Adam? Because the breakaway's now been caught. The only rider of any significance off the back now is Fabio Jakobsen. What do Alpecin-de-Koning do? Or what do the other riders do since there's no breakaway up the road?
In terms of sprinters or all the riders?
Just how you think that the stage will play out from here on in, because we've now got no breakaway. Surely someone's going to think,
yeah,
give it a nudge.
It's a difficult one. I think Alpecin themselves, they will keep going down to the bottom of this climb, and as I mentioned, there is a little kicker of only 1.5 k's long, and as you can see how strung out it is, I think they'll ride into that. They'll go into that next climb hard as well, so with it being as strung out as it is, they'll turn into that, go super hard up it, and then see what the damage is after, because there could be splits. There might be a group of 20 away, there might be a group of 30 away, and if there is that, they might carry on to the finish. There is a sprint point coming up as well, and I'm not going to say it's in a couple of kilometres. It's quite a long way off yet.
30 k's, yeah.
But with the way the wind is, it is a tailwind, pretty much cross tailwind all the way down that road as well. So they might persist with it, depending who's there. And I'm sure riders would like to attack, but if a team like Alpecin's taking control, you know, there might be GC riders that are further down in that bunch that have missed a split or something like that. You can see the top 2 riders on GC with the teams all around them. UAE at the front, Team Ineos stacked up right behind them. So it'll be an interesting one. Milan as well, with the little trek just sat right on their wheel as well, so Milan right towards the front.
The kicker you're talking about, Adam, is very reminiscent of the one we had yesterday, wasn't it? Where Ethan Werner was involved in a crash with Jonathan Narvaez at the foot of it. Weather, thankfully, slightly better for them today. No rain on this descent, as far as we can see at the moment. But yeah, after that kicker, it continued to descend on down to, well, just over 70 metres above sea level. Then we have the intermediate sprint that Adam was talking about, which is coming at 79 kilometres to go. The Inter-Giro comes after that, just inside 60 k's to go. Then there's a sprint pretty much at the foot of the only other categorised climb of the day. That's at 28 k's to go, whilst that fourth category climb peaks at 21 kilometres remaining. And a small descent into the outskirts of Lucca, and it's actually on the outskirts of town that they will finish today, albeit a technical finish, particularly for the last few kilometres.
It'll be interesting to see how far Jakobsen's behind at this point as well.
I would imagine it would be quite a long way, because he was dropped early on that climb.
Yeah, a long way, and with the speeds that they're doing now, it's a long day in the saddle just to keep riding as well. It really, like you're just talking about, Dan, what might happen, and it all depends on how they get down onto the bottom of this climb, up that small little kicker over the top of that, and then assess the peloton, really. But you never know, the Alpecin might decide, you know what, we'll carry on with this. It's a gravel day tomorrow. This is our last chance for a few days for a sprint, so let's have a go. Max Walscheid getting back on now as well.
It's a risk, though, isn't it? Because the more you thin it down, the more riders will be looking at that last fourth category climb thinking, well, we haven't got as many sprinters here, and therefore we haven't got as many sprinters teams to chase us down if we go on the attack. So there's always that fine balance, isn't there, between making it hard for your key rivals in the sprint versus making it so hard you haven't got enough riders left to control things. I would say the saviour for that climb is that it's still 21 k's out. So 21.1 k's out is. So I think if anyone was going to go on the attack, they'd really have to go hard. And then it's what they've got left in the tank to be able to chase down, well, to stay away from a bunch of sprinters. Yes, we've seen it happen in the past before, but it would take an almighty attack from, I'm going to say, a couple of riders minimum, maybe 4 riders to go away to possibly stay away. So at the minute, all the sprint teams are in there. They've got a bit of recovery on the flat coming up. And it wouldn't surprise me today, Dan, we saw Jonathan Milan not going for any bonus sprints today. Yesterday. Yeah. I'm sure with how it is today, with it being hard on that climb, there might be a few sprinters that think, I'm going to save myself. I don't want to move up the peloton. I don't want to have to, you know, have my teammates bring me up that extra effort. I just want full recovery right into the finish line. That's a shot and a half, isn't it? What a beautiful descent.
Great angle to see out of the corner as well. Chuck her in on the gas.
It's a beautiful sport, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
When you're not doing it.
I was going to say, it's a beautiful one when you're going well.
One of the men that was doing a lot of work on the previous climb of the Passo del Bracco has now been distanced. Jimmy Janssens. He was incredible at this race last year, actually, even on some of the bigger mountains deeper into the race 12 months ago. 34-year-old Belgian riding for Alpecin de Koning. A gasp of breath from Adam Blythe there, looking at the gaps between the riders consecutively on this flat piece of road. And just in front of us in the distance, you can see the kicker that Adam was talking about.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm going, because a lot of these riders, you can see Alpecin, they're not letting up whatsoever. Normally when you get on the climb and you come from the back, you can use the speed to get into it. Because the speed's still high, they'll be sprinting on the wheels behind, and then also when they get onto this climb, it's not like, I can use the speed to roll into the peloton. It's like, no, I've still got to go flat out here. Ethan Vernon just off the back, just behind Jimmy Janssens. I wonder if he's got a problem or not. Was he dropped?
Who, Vernon?
Yeah.
I didn't see him dropped. I was just about to say, perhaps the descent and the corners of it have done just as much damage to a few of the riders as the climb itself. We can see the gaps beginning to open up. Walscheid once again suffering. Luca Plappi even off the bat, the Australian champion Vanjeko Alula. Haven't seen Caleb Ewan again just yet. Maybe he's managed to move himself up a few places down that particular descent.
I think that's what the sprinters have to do, you know, for for this climb in particular, you know, try and move up when they got back on the back, try and move up as many places as possible. With it being strung out as it is, if they start 30 places forward, 40 places further up the peloton, that's 40 people that have to go past him, and by the time they get to the top of this one, only 1.5k, he might still be within touching distance at the back of this, which, to stay within the peloton, is ultimately what he wants.
I'm almost feeling their pain in my own legs at this point. So many of these riders would not have been expecting this. Seeing 4 riders head up the road this morning, rubbing their hands together in glee, thinking, we'll have a nice steady tempo for most of the stage, then we can do our job for the sprint finale into Lucca. Well, Alpes and de Koning had very different ideas today. They've lit it up at the Passo del Bracco. They've continued down the descent, and they're continuing to put the herds on this unclassified climb. It won't last long, but for the guys at the back of this peloton, it's going to feel like an eternity.
I was going to say it'll last long enough. There's splits at the back.
Yeah.
Look down, a couple of them just in front as well. It's not even right at the back. There is one right towards the back, but there's another one in the middle as well. Looks to be like Bahrain, so maybe Phil Bauhaus suffering a little bit. God, these guys are not messing. Look at the face on Mickey Alberg.
I know,
as
yeah,
well.
just the face of some of the GC riders even. I mean, the man on the front right here, looking round for his teammates and just waiting briefly, is Quinten Hermans. He's a cyclocross rider who's turned his hand more to road in recent years. That guy was runner-up at Liège-Bastogne-Liège a couple of years ago. So when he's going hard on the front, on climbs of this gradient and this distance, it is really going to hurt the sprinters of this race.
Yeah, it is, and there's another split group with Melir in there, Milano as well from UAE. Luke Platt just moving up on the left-hand side still. There's a ball rider on the front, Ryan Mullen, I believe that is. This is a big group. I think with Quick Step in there, though, with the amount of numbers in there still, the riders in this group will be quite happy with this to look around. Ewan in there